Hello, everyone, and welcome to Synchronous Online Teaching Strategies, engaging our youngest learners. And we welcome everyone who has come here today. Regardless of what age you teach, you're going to find strategies that will work for you. However, we are going to look at everything through the lens of our earliest learners, especially those in preschool, kindergarten, and first grade. Specifically, the things you're going to see today are taking into account two unique challenges of our youngest learners. One of them is dexterity and hand-eye coordination when they're younger. Things like using a mouse or clicking and dragging on an iPad and all those skills that require keyboarding, mouse, and just dexterity. The other thing we're going to address today is in the upper grades, I usually like to use the chat box for lots of texting back and forth, but realizing that our youngest learners are still in their very early literacy development, we are going to talk about how to use the text box for other ways that don't include spelling of very long words. So those are some of the highlights for today. My name is Teresa Wills. I'm an assistant professor at George Mason University in the Mathematics Education Leadership Department. I've had experience teaching in the classroom, K-12 classrooms, just about every grade, specifically math, and my most recent K-12 environment was in the primary grades and in elementary as a math coach. And I also have been volunteering at my kids' elementary schools quite frequently just to make sure I continue to stay in the classroom at least once a week and I'm keeping my skills relevant. So that's a little background on me. And let's jump right into today's activities. First off, you're going to need a copy of today's interactive slides. There they are in the chat box. Whoops, I just sent it to one person. Let me send it to everyone. There they are in the chat box. So make sure you have either two windows or two tabs open so that you can interact with the slides today. We'll also talk about how we get kiddos to that stage of being able to use two windows and when you share it and collaborate and when you use two. So that's all on the agenda. And on slide one, you will notice there are several ways of staying in touch through email address, my website, Twitter handle, and YouTube channel. Again, if you're just joining us, here's the link. On slide two are two important websites you might want to bookmark. If you like any of the templates you see today or in other sessions, they're all available free for educators on my website. So you would just go there and scroll through, find the ones you like, and open them. You can copy and paste them directly into your slideshow. You can also copy the full edit version that lets you move things around, change the text, change the color if you're someone who likes to engage in tweaking slides. Also, this resource here is where I post this recording. Within the next 24 hours, I'll have that posted, along with the blank, fresh, clean slides that haven't been all edited and interacted with. So you can go there to get any of those. Our norms for success are on slide 3. You're going to be engaged this entire time. This is not a passive session. This is very interactive. So make sure you put away all your distractions. We are recording. Please reduce or eliminate any background noise. Questions are important. They're evidence of us learning. I'm going to ask that you please type all questions on the very last slide. The virtual parking lot is last so that I don't forget any questions, but it also allows me to address the questions I have planned throughout the session. So that's where those can go. When you are in small groups, make sure you turn on your mics. Use asset and positive language when describing kids. Mistakes happen. They're gonna happen. And when they do, just press Control-Z. That allows you to undo any mistakes that you make. If you're a Mac user, it's Command-Z. Don't drive while participating. And if this isn't your first session with me, I'd love to see another picture in your profile picture, especially with fur babies, children, family members, spouses, whoever is important to you. You see, when we put them in our profile picture, it doesn't actually take away from instructional time for us to make connections with students. So that's why I encourage that. All right, come on down to slide 4. You're going to grab that star in the middle and move it to your dream vacation spot. Which one describes you? And once you move your star, feel free to personalize it. Change the color, change the size. Gosh, you can even change the shape. Oh, good. Someone is already making a mistake on here. I was hoping to get that early on. One of the tips you'll see today is how you can lock slides so that you don't accidentally move the image around. So somebody is doing a great job modeling that with the beach right now. Oh, and there's the Disney one. So I will show you how to lock some images. All right, and then I'm going to have the group kind of share out a little bit. One of the norms I use with my students is if you change the color of your star, or maybe you put on it a green outline, for example, that's showing me that you are comfortable with sharing out loud. And so it's another kind of raise hand feature, but I put it up there as well. So if I just put a green outline on your star over in the mountains, would you turn on your mic? Tell us a little bit, why are the mountains your dream vacation?
I can just imagine watching the sunset from that porch. It just looks relaxing.
Oh, yes. Oh, I love the mountains too. And thank you for whoever just modeled how to, when you accidentally delete an image like the Mickey Mouse, you just hit Control Z and you put it back up there. But don't worry, I'm also going to show you how to lock these images. Who picked the blue star with the red outline, and why is it in between these two areas?
I picked it because I like both of those places. It would be, I would love if there was a lake view from the mountains where I'm looking down at the lake at the same time. Both of them are very peaceful.
Oh, wonderful. All right, folks, after we do an activity, I'm going to turn it over to you in as the other 41 teaching experts. I have discussion questions right below the slide. And the question for this one is, how does this activity support digital citizenship and fine motor skills? I'd love to hear your responses, either using the microphone or you can type them in the chat box wherever you're more comfortable with, but specifically digital citizenship and fine motor skills. Rosalba, go ahead.
Well, for the motor skills, I teach second grade, so this is a good way for me to know whether my students are able to, are going to be able to manage some of the technology that I teach as we go along, and if they're going to be successful or if they still need help on that.
Absolutely. And doing this, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, and as a digital citizen, for them to be respectful and not just be deleting whatever, like playing around with the tools, learn how to be respectful and respect what others answer or place, or, and if it was by mistake, they can always just hit Control C.
Oh, absolutely. I want to be in your class the way you're so calm with the mistakes there. Thank you for sharing. Lorraine,
Thank
could I
you.
ask you to expand a little bit on what a random reporter activity is?
When we were teaching online in Alexandria, I felt like we were always, it was calling on certain students all the time. It was sort of teacher-student instead of turn and talk or anything like this. So this is an opportunity. I don't know whose star is where, so I'm just calling on the random star, the red star. So every student has an opportunity to participate and knows that they might be called on.
Yes, so every single child has a voice here. And much like Rosalba was saying, you know, if you get a kiddo that isn't able to participate, you can find out real early on, maybe have a one-on-one tech support with them or give them more opportunities to try on their own. But right at the beginning of the year, where you can get success with this drag and drop and full participation. Um, Wonderful. Hey, let's move on down to slide 6. Let's do another little drag and drop. In this activity, I like to use this pretty regularly, where I post a picture of the student on the slide. So I've got my whole class of 5 kiddos. I do realize that that is not practical, but those were the stock images that I was able to use. So we've got images. You could use yearbook photos. You could ask students to supply the image that they want on their slide. Sometimes they might want to even use Bitmoji if they don't want their real image out there. But they have a place that they know is them and theirs. And I'm going to ask you all, pretend you're one of these kiddos, grab an emoji and bring it down. How are you feeling today? And I've offered this little poem at the top. I used it more recently in Girl Scouts. I'm a Girl Scout troop leader for Daisies, which means that there's 14 girls who are either in kindergarten or first grade. And, you know, when we moved online during the emergency pandemic time, I continue to use this little poem that I use with them in the face-to-face setting, just to kind of continue over the feeling of this routine that we had going on. So I would purposely give the girls a super hard challenge, knowing that they're going to really stretch and have productive struggle, and they're probably going to get frustrated, and they might even need to learn how to deal with their emotions in that small group. And so I would always just say this poem whenever someone was feeling mad, that, you know, I'm still going to like you even when you're mad. So, you know, take that feeling's normal. It's a normal emotion. And so I use that with them. Throughout today's presentation, you're going to see a couple of these little tech tips in the top. So if you're trying to make this infinite clone of emojis, that little video there will teach you kind of how to do it. And these tech tips will just stay in the slides, so you'll have them. My question for you all on slide 7, how does this activity give students voice? Meredith, let's hear from you.
I just think it validates that all their emotions are important, and it also gives you, I feel, as a teacher, to understand what their voice is. And if most of your class is indicating that they're worried or nervous, I feel like it may kind of tweak your teaching style a little bit in that moment, which is normally what we do every day in the classroom when we can, you know, see their faces and understand how they're feeling.
Yes, absolutely. How many of you all teach lessons on emotions, empathy, and maybe what to do next when you're, you know, feeling stuck in an emotion? Is that part of your curriculum at all? Let's hear from Kelly. Go ahead.
So I teach pre-K. That's absolutely a big part of our curriculum. We do a lot of conscious discipline and learning to identify feelings, express our feelings, help others with kind of monitoring and supporting their feelings is really important.
Yes, indeed. And it can be kind of tough to do that in distance learning when we don't have those like in the moment times to talk about it. So we've got to use the kid experiences. And Sue, you bring up one of the nice affordances of the technology. Tell us a little bit more about how you're thinking of using the images.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. I just feel like a lot of times they can't, at the younger ages, they can't put words to their feelings. So if you have an image or a graphic that expresses it, they can pull that a lot easier. And also if they're feeling feelings that they feel uncomfortable with, they're not having to verbally say them.
Absolutely. And Andy, tell us a little bit about why you might use this to touch base.
I was just thinking that it would probably, kids would probably gravitate towards either the happy face or the sad face mainly, and that if you saw that a student was consistently using the sad face or the cry face, but maybe they didn't want to speak out, that might be an opportunity for you, during office hours or at another time to kind of reach out to them and make sure that they're not, struggling more than they should be, so to speak.
Absolutely. And Andy, what you bring up here is so important in our lives as teachers right now. We only have a finite amount of time, but when we can really start to prioritize, like, when am I going to call a certain student at home, and what is the reason for that, this can help us prioritize based on their emotion there. And then we can also, if we see a student who constantly is feeling defeated, and then one day there's a big old happy face, we can make sure that we give them some talk time that day and share out that time and celebrate them more. Another nice thing about this is sometimes if we don't give students a chance to interact, they might seem very passive and sitting in front of their computer with the emotions and not being able to share them. So in this, they can actually share them each time and realize they're not alone in their emotions. All right, let's start engaging in another activity. Come on down to slide 8. Slide 8 includes an activity called I Spy. And the way this works is we'll take turns using everyday language to describe a picture. And then the other person needs to respond with the academic language. For this activity, I'm going to ask that we respond in the chat box or over the microphone. So if you think you know the academic term, which in this case it's going to be a shape, go ahead and type it or say it. I'll model first. This is one of my favorite chips. I love it because it's crunchy and it comes in a crunchy bag, and I love that sound when I'm eating it, and the flavor is so yummy also. What shape do you think I'm thinking of? Indeed, it is a triangle, and sometimes we'll have students put like little bingo chips on it after we've said it. That's up to you all to modify. And I'm going to ask Maria, since you were our first person to respond, Maria Sanchez, would you mind taking over the microphone and doing it kind of like how I did, where you pick one and tell it using the everyday language? We'll guess in the chat.
Okay. I spy a delicious pepperoni pizza. With dough, and it's in the wood-fired oven. There we go. Yes, it's a circle.
Wonderful. And Lorraine, you were first up this time, so would you go ahead and take the next one?
I spy something that lives in the ocean. It has 5 points. It is brown.
And was it indeed a star?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. And Kelly, you have included an emoji of a star. One of my favorite things doing, working with young kids is using the emojis. And trust me, I know how annoying emojis can be. But since they love to use them, I try to find opportunities for them to use them in a way that promotes the academic. So take a minute, explore your emojis, and see what other shapes are in there. Why might that be useful in this type of an activity? Yeah, Stephanie brings up the vocabulary there. Um, Maybe not have the language, but knows the shape. If you're someone who is just starting out with breakout rooms, maybe you want to just kind of test the waters and see how your students do with breakout rooms. I usually start off with 2 minutes with two kids, like a pair share. I don't give them too long to get distracted or bored, and I give them a very specific thing to do. So let's take a look at what 2 minutes feels like in a pair share activity. You're going to automatically move into pair shares, and then you're going to do exactly what we've modeled here. There are 6 shapes left. I'm the one who sets up the breakout rooms. You'll automatically go in. So go ahead and turn on your microphone. You've got a buddy here, and let's begin. At this point, I can use my mouse to scroll around, make sure everyone's got a partner. So I might need to check in on this group in a minute. Group 5 might not have a partner. Group 8, only one mic is on, so I'll be in to check on them real soon. Same with group 15. Oh no, that's 2. Group 16.
Hello. Hello? I don't know if I have
Oh,
anyone
there.
in the
I'm
group.
sorry, my microphone was off.
Oh,
Hi, Meredith. It looks like Becky is trying to reconnect, so I'll be your partner for a moment. Would you like to start?
sure. All right. I spy something floating in the air. It's red.
Is it a heart?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. I see a shape made when people make the peace sign and then they hold their fingers up to each other's.
Oh, a star.
Absolutely.
Is it a star?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to bring us all back up to the main room
Okay.
here.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. That was a
Okay.
super quick time. I'm going to go ahead and mute your microphones together. And I do recognize how fast that time went, but that's how I start the year off with grouping. And then afterwards, we might even get into norms about what do we want to make sure we do when we're in breakout rooms. Some norms that I use are if you're in a room all by yourself because someone got disconnected, that you should take it upon yourself to move to a different room. Sometimes I don't allow that at the beginning of the year and I move them. Sometimes I'll mention that we want to make sure we give both people a voice. Sometimes I'll add timers in here, but it's a great time to start talking about the norms about what you'd want. So there you go. Let's see. Let's come on down to slide 10. Actually, yeah, slide 10. All right, on slide 10, I have a little activity with more drag and drop, and I want you to guess my rule. Feel free to put it in the chat box or say it out loud. Everything on the inside follows the rule. Oh, not that one. Everyone on the outside does not have this rule. What do you think my rule is? They do all have equal sides, but so does my blue rhombus out there. That one also has equal sides. They do have right angles, but so does the red rectangle out there. What do you think my rule is? Stephanie saw it. They are both squares. Yes. Wonderful. I'm going to ask for some volunteers. I think we already have a volunteer on slide 11. I need two more. If you want to give me a hand raise, I'll know that you want to volunteer to make a rule on slide 12 and 13. Can we get at least two more? Need someone for 12 and someone for 13. And if you're not used to this tool, the hand raise is next to your mic. Stephanie, you have slide 12. Go ahead and make a rule in that circle. Oval, ellipse. Who'd like to be on slide 13? Lindsay, you have 13. And Lindsay, you're going to have a little bit of an extra challenge because as you're creating your rule, try your best to make a different rule than all the ones above it. All right, slide 11. Who was the creative person to do this one? And would you turn on your microphone? You're the teacher. Have us guess your rule. Oh, I see. So this person's audio wasn't working and they went ahead and put it in here. What a great way to be included, even when your audio is not working. So that person went ahead and did one here. All right, slide 12. Who did I say was the author of this? Go ahead and turn on your microphone and you're the teacher.
Okay, this is Stephanie. Am I supposed to tell the rule or ask somebody to?
You'll ask us to do the rule, either audio or typing, and then you'll reveal it after you've seen some guesses.
Okay, so all of the shapes inside this oval have something in common. They do all have curved lines. Not polygons is what I was thinking. Not polygons or do not have any straight sides.
Wonderful. Thank you, Stephanie. And we'll come down to slide 13. Lindsay, you're the teacher. Take over the mic. You've got this.
Okay, if you could use the chat to type in what you think my rule is, what makes all the shapes inside the same and the ones outside not fit the rule. Lots of all equal sides. Does anyone know the name of this kind of shape that has all equal sides? So yeah, equilateral, I guess, means equal sides. Quadrilateral means four sides. Rhombus is the name of a quadrilateral with four congruent sides. Nice work.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing, Lindsay. So the neat thing about this activity is you can continue to add lots and lots of slides. And if you have a kiddo who just need that extra engagement. They need to be engaged the whole time, constantly going back and reworking their rule because somebody else took it, and you give them those lower ones. And that's just kind of part of your planning. Um, these ones aren't just with shapes. I hope that we're thinking about other content. So what other content does preschool to first grade, what content do they sort? Go ahead and put your thoughts in the chat box or over the audio. Wow, these are so many great lessons. Oh, I want to be in your classes. These look great. Now, as we go through this, I'm going to continue to bring up the importance of networking, finding buddy teachers, even connecting with people who are here today. Because can you imagine if each of you made one of these, how it would feel to have a slide deck already prepared for the beginning of school with all of these done, and you only had to contribute one. So this is the part of like, we're in this together only if we really are together. Let's roll into some reading comprehension. Slide 15 has one of my favorite books. Pete the Cat, I Love My White Shoes. And this is how I like to send read-alouds out to students. You can do it in a variety of ways, whether it's Google Slides, Google Drive that you're connecting or YouTube you're connecting. But I love to put the link in the slides. And I don't stream it. And here's my reason why. Because there are so many distractions in the home that sometimes if you are going to put up a read aloud, it is a great time for a little break. So I might even say here, come back at 12:33. And so it gives students a time to hit play, go use the restroom, go get a snack, and come back. It also allows them to pause it, to buffer. And when you stream it over your computer, even though it might look all nice and smooth on yours, it might be very choppy for them if they don't have the same high-speed internet connection. By putting the link in the slides, I'm making this more equitable and accessible to all of my students. So some of you are used to this book. Pete goes through a series of time where he starts with white shoes. He steps in a variety of different things. He does not get all bent out of shape. He just continues to sing his song. So those of you who are familiar with it, on slide 16, feel free to grab one pair of shoes and put it in the order that you remember from the book. And just grab one so we have a couple more for other folks. Wonderful. And so we've got our kind of sequencing here. If you would just take a moment and write in the chat box, what's another book that you feel like you could find clip art images rather quickly and do a sequencing activity like this with your students? If you would just type the name of a book that's on your mind that you're thinking you could use this with. And again, all these templates are available. You would just find your own clip art and pop it in there. The other thing I'd like to do is to get some kind of student interaction here. Join me on slide 17. I frequently use pictures of the students, the ones that they supply to me. Sometimes those images are, just the stock one of their yearbook photo, but sometimes they like to include silly pictures and they like to update them often. So here we go. I want you to think about your dirtiest pair of shoes. Think about that for a minute. Now move yourself into one of these 4 quadrants. What color are your dirtiest shoes? And I want you to think about why that's okay and what Pete would say about that. Would Pete cry? And at this point, this is a strategy I do to get more student interaction. So first of all, by asking what's your dirtiest pair of shoes, every single kid has an answer to it. So I can assume that every kid is ready to share out an answer. And the way I do that is I tell them, can everyone please raise your hand? We're going to have the whole class hands up. And I'm going to pick some volunteers to share out what color their shoes are and why they're that color. So I'll ask you all to do it too. Could everyone raise their hand by going into Collaborate next to the microphone? And here's how I get a variety of ideas while using the chat box purposefully for emojis. I'm going to ask some of you to start sharing out loud what color your shoes are, why, and what would Pete say about it. If somebody has already said your response, I don't want you to feel sad that they took your thinking. Instead, in the chat box, would you put an emoji to show a connection to that student? We'll start with Meredith. What color are your shoes and why, and what would Pete say about it?
I actually said white because I said I tend not to step in things that are dirty. I try to avoid it at all costs. So,
And what do you think Pete would say about that?
goodness, oh, what were the words? Goodness, no, we're okay with that. I forgot what the exact words are. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. I'm so glad that you were able to respond. And I can see other people's responses to this in the chat. Lovely. And I'm going to put Meredith's hand down. Kelly, you are up. Go ahead. What color are your shoes and what would Pete say?
My brown hiking shoes are also covered with dirt and mud. So Pete would say, that's great because they're already brown.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. If you made a connection with that and you want to lower your hand, go ahead and respond in the chat box. And I'll take the next. Sometimes I don't pick the next hand up. I just pick someone on this list. Caroline, would you tell us about yours? And Caroline, if you do get your microphone to work, feel free to interrupt me. I invite you to speak. And in the meantime, we'll take Ginny. What color are your shoes and what would Pete say?
My blue walking shoes get very dirty because I walk my dog in the evening and it's very hot where I live right now, so I hose her off with water before we start walking so that she stays cool and we can walk for a while.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. All right, folks, so this is how I'm getting more student voice. I might only have time to have a couple students respond, but now I can see Andy clearly loves dogs also. Cassidy's showing like, hey, that's cool. I would wear sunglasses. But the thing about the emojis is the kids already want to use them, so let's get them to use them for more engagement. On this slide, I have a little hand. And this is pointing to a video about how you lock your slides. You'll notice this one, you cannot move the red or the blue or the brown or the white. I've locked those in place. I don't want kids moving those, but I do want them to move their faces. And I also made the pointer movable and that little purple text box. So those are things that are movable. That video will explain how to do it. So let's see, let's move on down to slide 19. Some of you all use snap words, some of you use sight words, some of you use quick words, but I'd like you to double click any bullet point here and type in a snap word you remember from last year. If someone's writing in the same space as you, just double click another bullet point. and what I'm seeing here now is student voice, not my own. I'm not the one to tell them these are the snap words you should have learned. These are them showing me what they did learn, what they have retained. We could do this every single day and continue to practice that. Um, Another thing that I sometimes do, so you all don't have student ID numbers because, well, first of all, I didn't know who was coming to my class. But when I put these bullet points in, sometimes instead of bullet points, I'll put in numbers, and each student has a class number. That way they know where they should be, and they're not going to write on top of each other. So an example of that is on the slide below. You know, you have the option to do bullet points or numbers in Google Slides. So I can just change those to numbers. And then you know if you're number 6, that's where you type yours. So my question to you on slide 21 is, how can we ensure that young children learn keyboarding skills? Our youngest ones, pre-K, K and 1. Please put your thoughts either in the chat or turn on your microphone. Andy, you bring up a really important point about making it fun. Why is that so important for kids developmentally?
Well, we know that kids aren't going to be as engaged if they're not interested, just like we wouldn't as adults as well. So if we can make it fun for them, give them opportunities to be goofy, just like you did with the emojis, and letting us engage in that, then the kids are more likely to be using it correctly when you want them to use it correctly.
Absolutely. Meredith brings up one of the most important words to learn to keyboard. Meredith, why is that so important to you?
I just think because we're in such a virtual environment right now and they're going to be doing so much with us to learn to recognize where the letters are, and they have to log in and their password, and just because of the change of environment, being able to do those skills.
Absolutely. Meredith brings up the importance of typing their name and also passwords. I know my daughter, who is a rising second grader, is still learning where all the letters are on the keyboard, but she knows where the JOSEPHIN and E are because that's her name and she's been practicing that one. Wonderful. All right, folks, we are going to move into part 2 of the webinar right now, but I wanted to showcase that these early parts, they are, first of all the templates are available to you and they require very little editing. You find a picture, you paste it in. And if anyone needs support on figuring out how to paste things in, it's just copy paste and kind of resizing, but I'm also happy to support you with that. Just put that question down in the virtual parking lot. The next couple activities I'm going to move into were a little bit more complex to code or make the template for. So the templates are indeed available to you, but I also wanted to point out that you did all of that interaction, engagement, without having a bunch of bells and whistles on the slides. And I think that's really important for teachers moving into this online environment because we don't want to spend 6 hours a day making a slide. We want things that are ready to go. So this activity is choral counting, and the way I like to do this is over a 4-day period. So I'll kind of explain how I might do this in a 4-day period. On day 1 of choral counting, we would practice repetition and the beat. And I would do the audio portion, and I have several strategies for doing the video portion. So I'd remove the first part and we'd say it out loud together, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I would ask you all to follow along with me and do it with me. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that all my students are engaged. They could just be ignoring me. If you choose to use video, this is a great time to use video because every time they hit 10, they can put all 10 fingers up on top of their screen. And they can do that every time there's a 10 or in this case, a multiple of 10 or when we're counting by tens. So you can do hand gestures whenever we come up on a very important number. So you can turn on your video if you'd like to try it, but you don't have to. I'm going to go through the next one and go ahead and put 10 fingers up when you see a multiple of 10. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, and see how that feels to have emotion along with it. After day 1, we've had a chance to do some repetition and beats with this pattern. We want to talk about the patterns we see in this big grid. So I invite you all to do the same kind of norm we did before. If everyone could raise their hand as soon as they have an idea about a pattern they notice. I'm hoping to have the whole class's hands up. So whenever you see a pattern, go ahead and raise your hand. I'm going to start off with Remy. Would you tell us what pattern you see?
I see the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. It all increased by 10.
Neat. So you said that all of these increased by 10. And how do you know it increased by 10? Can you tell me a little bit about what your brain was doing?
So that's 110, 210, 310, 410, 510, 610.
Lovely. If you had a similar connection, you're welcome to respond with emojis and put your hand down. But if you have another idea, that hand goes right back up. And Helen, we're going to go with you next. What pattern do you see?
I see a pattern of increasing by 2 on the top row. So it's 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 2 is 6, 6 plus 2 is 8, 8 plus 2 is 10.
Neat. So that top row increases by 2. And I like the way that you kind of explained why each one did that. So lovely. Lorraine, I see your hand is up. Tell us what you notice.
I noticed that in the columns, there's a 1-digit number and then a 2-digit number, and the 2-digit numbers all start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Am I showing the spot that you're thinking?
Yes.
All right, so let's see.
So in the vertical numbers.
These numbers, they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How come the 2 doesn't have 1? What's going on there?
It's only a 1-digit number, so it doesn't have 10.
It's only a 1-digit number. It doesn't have the 10. Very cool. Oh, I gotta go ahead and make this yellow so you all know what that one is for. I see more hands up. Erin, would you tell us what you see?
Sure. So when I look down the vertical columns at the numbers in the ones place, in the first column it's all 2s, and in the second column it's all 4s and 6s and 8s, and then 0s in the last column.
Whoa, so we have all 2s here, and we have all 4s here. Am I showing that the way you described?
Yes.
All righty. And I hope I rephrased that the way that you had intended. We'll take one more because I think you all are kind of, actually, we're going to change it up. We're going to go to day 3. We have a couple thoughts here. So this is now day 3. I want my students to use some of the strategies that were mentioned earlier. So I'm going to put these little boxes on top of numbers that I know they'd be able to solve using somebody's strategy. Alrighty, and in these gray boxes, I'd love to see what numbers we have. Who is feeling like they could go ahead and take this number pointer and tell us which box you would like to tell us about? And Meredith, I see your hand up. Which box are you going to use? And tell us whose rule you are using to figure it out.
I didn't realize my hand was up. There's a lesson. I guess I did that. Sure. I'll tell you about the one on the top, and it's 6.
How did you know it was 6?
Because I was thinking of somebody's strategy that everything increased by 2s. So 2 plus 2 is 4, so 4 plus 2 had to be 6.
Meredith, I love how you used the orange strategy there. Gosh, I don't see any other hands up in the air. Let's think if you have a strategy to share, and if not, we'll do some pair share time so you can have time to think about it. Lindsay, which one do you want to do?
So I am going to do, let me move the pointer to underneath the 2 here. And I know that's 12 because I used the purple rule where the columns are increasing by 10. Then I know 2 plus 10 was 12.
Very cool. I love that you found out this number by using a rule for the other kind of side there. So not only does this column increase by 10, but every column does. Well done. And then, so that's how day 2 would go. Day 3 would even look a little more different. I'm going to duplicate this slide just so we can preserve. I'm going to delete out people's comments. And now I'm going to see if you all can remember the strategy and be able to restate that strategy. I'm looking for hands up for the other 2. And Catherine, which box would you like to figure out?
I'd like to figure, I gotta move it, this box, the box that's the 50, and it's based on the red pattern, it's 5 groups of 10.
I love how you remembered that red pattern. Absolutely. So it's increasing by 10, and let's go ahead and reveal it. You found our 50. And we'll do one more. Sue, can you tell us how you know this mystery number?
Sure. I would use the rule that we looked down and saw that all the ones in this column, the green rule, all those in that column were 2 ones, and then that it was going up by 1 10. So 1 10, 2 10, 3 10s, 4 10s, 5 10s. So I think it's 52.
Sue, it sounds like you're using 2 different ideas here. The green strategy where it was all 2s, and the yellow strategy where it's going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we were to put these together, the 2s staying the same and the moving up. Wonderful. All right, folks, so what I hope to show here is ways that, first of all, you don't need to spend more time planning. You can use the same slide all week long, and you just increase the rigor and having students try to remember the different patterns. There's some other great slides down here that I encourage you to go ahead and play with. We'll just have some tinker time here. You can stay on the same slide as me. You can move to another. But same and different. I love to give students the opportunity to say it out loud, and I record their thinking in the space. The estimate, if you head to Estimation 180, you can get plenty of images. But on slide 25, it gives you a chance for students to, like your whole class, like literally everybody gives an estimate that is too low, and everybody gives an estimate that's too high, and then we find one that should be right around the middle. Slide 26 is a template for which one doesn't belong, much like the star at the beginning of today. Slide 27, I know a lot of you all talk about probability in a very primary sense where we say things are impossible or certain or more likely. This is a chance for kiddos to type in their name and move the arrows. So how likely are you to have pizza tonight? Well, I'm the one who's doing the cooking, so probably over here. My daughter Joey helped me make this slide, so that's why her name is on every single one. But you can change your name, or you could even have the students' names pre-established, and then they just move the arrow. Slide 28 is making money. It's an opportunity to see many different ways of doing something. And sometimes I'll put 4 people in a group and have them come up with 4 different ways. So these are just drag and drop again. Slide 29 uses bears to make pattern trains. And there's a space for them to type in what their train looks like, if it's A, B, or others. Slide 30 talks about many ways of making 10. They can do it with fish. They can also do it with counters. And they can even type their statement in the box. One thing I like to do is give students the language. So if they are able to hear the same sentence frame again and again, there are 10 fish in the bowl, so many are red and so many are blue, then they're more likely to be able to use their microphone and participate out loud. Slide 31 is a favorite of mine, bears in a cave. Tell how many are total, and the kids can just move over that cave and see how many were underneath so they can self-check their work. Slide 32 is a great one for modifying. If you're talking fractions, this is a set model, so we're not always stuck in area models. You can put any toys. I have right now some of these little Hatchimal guys because my daughter helped me make the slide. But you talk about different things that they have in common. What fraction? 33 is a lovely which one comes next. There's also some ideas for you to look at on slide 34 for Flipgrid. You've probably heard the buzz of Flipgrid going around. What I have here for you is a video to watch that tells you all about it, and then you can even try out some different Flipgrids that I've made with other educators. So that's there for you if you want to learn more about it. And the final tip I have for you on slide 35 is when you're creating directions for students, sometimes those students are going to get disconnected from the computer while you're reading them. So I like to link in Google Translate. If you click my directions, it's actually a link. It'll read the directions out loud, not only in English, but in many, many home languages. And again, tips for doing that are on the side. So I know you all are working on language development at those early ages, and having it said out loud is really nice, especially in your home language. The video will teach you how to make it like remember your text, so you can just link your text. All right, folks, that's the top of the hour. I hope you felt engaged the entire time. I hope you want your students to feel engaged and to collaborate. I'm going to hang out in the virtual parking lot and answer all the questions that come in here. There's more room on the slide below. If you don't have questions and you're going to log off, I encourage you to network with other people. If you haven't gone into the Twitterverse yet, it might be time to check it out because there are so many people making templates and sharing them. I have this little slide at the very end called Sign the Yearbook. If you would like to put your name, Twitter handle, or way that you'd like people to be in touch with you, you got 40 people here who are interested in the same things you're interested in. Put your name up there, let them know you want to stay in touch and that you don't want to create all the slides by yourself. You want to collaborate with people. And that'll be up there for you all to be in touch with each other. All right, questions. Let's see what questions we have. Somebody said, when students complete slides in breakout rooms, can you see them to evaluate? Yes, much like I can see them here. What I would do is just create several duplicates. So suppose I was on 33. I'm going to make several duplicates of 33. Now it's 33, 34, 35, and 36. And I would tell them that group 1 would go on one slide, group 2, and I would just assign these to different groups. I'd have kids move down into the different slides, find their slide, and start typing. And yes, I've had success with kindergartners knowing, to move down to their slide. It just takes a little practice with them so that they feel confident. Since this is getting a little crowded, feel free to put your questions on 40 and then we can see everything. Are we able to edit templates in another language? Yeah, everything is text box or images, so absolutely you can edit them. You can, change everything on them. They're all available in full edit form. When you do choral counting, do you have kids turn on their mics? What I sometimes do is I invite a small group of kids or one kid at a time to turn them on. So we have our featured speaker or we have our featured group. What this does is it does allow me to hear the pattern and the beat happening. When I have 30 mics on at a time, it gets really choppy. So I don't usually like to do all of them, but I do say like, let's have Meredith and Lindsay and Teresa turn on your mics. With 3 people, it's not as choppy, and I'll hear them say it while everybody else has that on at home. For the next line, I might invite 3 more people. We'd start at the top and continue down. How do you structure your schedule? We're required to have 3 hours instruction, but 60 minutes live with 3rd graders. If you can structure it so that you have 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, developmentally, it's easier for kids to stay engaged for a full 20, especially as you work up to longer times. Think about different ways that you can have them come back on the computer. And how you will structure it for them so that they don't, rely on their parents to keep saying like, are you on your computer at this time? Encouraging them to set a timer or you set a timer on your computer that they can keep seeing can be really useful. And, continue to add those brain breaks just like you would in the face-to-face class. Do you leave kids alone in breakout rooms? I absolutely do. But I have so much control. I think I even have more control than I do in a face-to-face class. Here's my tricks with that. First off, much like in a face-to-face, I don't throw 4 kids in a group for 30 minutes because that would be chaos on day 1. You all know the importance of routines and practice and how when you build up and if students regress, then we move back and we keep the routine, we keep practicing, and we move up again. Those things don't change, and we do the same thing online. So today you all started in pair share for 2 minutes. That's all the time I gave you. When I see mastery and responsibility, then we move into groups of 4 for 2 minutes. Then we groups of 4 for 4 minutes, and we slowly increase that time. If students regress, we go back, and then we keep practicing until we have that. One thing that I do for more control is that I can see when people's microphones are on in small groups. I can see when their microphones are active. I can see when the same student is talking every time they're in small groups and some students are not. I can also have students send me private messages if somebody's being not nice in their group. That lets them to save face. I also teach kids when they are in those breakout rooms that I come in inconspicuously and just listen in or interact with you, and then I move to another one. And so I'm constantly moving around those breakout rooms. They're not really alone the whole time. How do you have music playing? When you join the presentation, I just put that one up on my YouTube channel. Let me link it for you. How to share audio. Share. So right now I have sound in the background. Alrighty, I'm going to just link your question with my answer. How do you set up responses to be anonymous? There are several ways of sharing Google Slides. Give me just a moment here because I've actually answered many of these through video. That way I don't have to ramble on and on. I can, whoops, I can have these for you ready to go. So this is the place where I keep all my videos, and I'm going to get to your specific question now. All right. I use links to make it anonymous for when I'm working with other teacher educators out there. I don't necessarily have a class roster like you do, but there are several ways of sharing. And you go up to the share button. You can share by email address, student ID number, or if you have a bank of all the email addresses, you can just paste that in here. You can also share a link, and the link version is anonymous. This version up here is by student name. And so you'll be able to share it with their actual names coming up. Somebody asked the Pete the cat, the bears in a train. Yeah, I typically would make a copy for each partner or each student and let them interact on their own copy. If you're doing a math lesson, would you start out with this as a number talk type activity? Then what do you do? Disconnect. They listen to a lesson, do some private work, and perhaps play a game independently. So challenging with second graders. So it kind of, there's a variety of ways that I use the downtime. First of all, having a timer on your computer is a great way of doing it. The kids keep the synchronous program up. I'll go to insert a video and I'm going to put 10-minute timer. Let's do a quick search here. Here we go. This will work. I'm going to pop it in here and I'm going to tell my students, go ahead and turn on the timer and make sure you're back when that goes off. So I'll hit play on my screen. It's projecting in my synchronous tool. They've got this here so they have a countdown. Sometimes I have students engage in pair share activities. Excuse me. Oops. Why is this being funny? I want to move you. There it goes. So that can sometimes help with your time management. Sure, to get this to pop up, I go to Insert, Video, and I search. Let's just do a 2-minute timer. Grab one of these cool little 2-minute timers. Oh, this one looks fun. So many other people made these. You don't have to make them yourself. And so it takes 2 minutes for that little thing to get to the end. And then they know to come back to their computer. Come on, stop. There we go. So those are over there. And as far as activities, you can put students in breakout rooms and have them do these different activities together and then have them come back so that they're not always just playing by themselves, they're collaborating. Let's see, there's one up here. Tip for teaching kids to move back and forth between windows. This is so important. If there is one skill you teach them this year, this might be it. If you look at your phone or you look at your computer, I bet you have multiple tabs or multiple windows open. That is very much a 21st century skill. It is a gatekeeper skill in technology. And if you want to open up that gate to all your students, we've got to teach them how to move between windows and move between tabs. I do have a video about how to do that on an iPad or an iPhone because I know that that one's pretty common. I'm going to copy this and put this in. But it's one of those things like I highly motivate you to spend the time and teach that skill, because that's going to be a skill that they're going to use in every single grade level that they're going into next and into adulthood. It's so important for kids to be able to navigate between windows. And some tips are just starting out simple with 2 slides. All right, everyone, I'm on slide 1. Now move to slide 2. And you can see all your kiddos in the bottom as they're moving into those different slides. Let's see. Oh, I think I just got to that one. I don't currently have a Facebook group. Partially, I try and keep my Facebook a little bit more personal and my Twitter to be a little bit more professional. I need to stretch out to there. I just haven't yet. So, not yet. And there's many, many people here on our yearbook who said, hey, let's follow each other. Let's share things. Let's not start from scratch. So please feel free to follow them. And, if you're new to Twitter, you want to try it out for the first time, you're welcome to start off. Put me on there, and I'll give you some other people to follow. But there's a great, great Twitter community right now. Well, folks, happy online learning. Share your successes and continue to motivate other teachers to feel like they're part of something together. Good luck this year.